All right, guys, we are getting ready to finally plumb in our raw water intake and manifold and saltwater distribution throughout the boat. Previously, we had multiple through hulls with multiple inlets and multiple saltwater pumps scattered throughout the boat, but now we've consolidated everything into a single intake in the cockpit locker where it's behind that watertight bulkhead. And that's gonna go into a single raw water strainer, which is gonna take out most of like the big chunks of leaves and seaweed and seashells and crabs. And then that's gonna get distributed into a main manifold. And then our 3 main saltwater pumps are all gonna be running off of that manifold in the cockpit locker where the HVAC compressor and the water maker is gonna be, and our saltwater washdown pump. So all of our saltwater systems, everything that can flood the boat is gonna be behind that watertight bulkhead. So if any of this stuff leaks, the bilge pump will take care of it. And if the bilge pump doesn't take care of it, nothing bad's gonna happen. I've been building out and testing and fitting and fiddling around in the cockpit locker for months trying to get all of this organized and find the missing pieces that I need to make all this work because it's a very small amount of space. And one of the tricks is this big AC pump, for instance, for our HVAC system, has to be below the waterline because it's not self-priming. This 3D printed prototype of the pump for our water maker has a little bit of suction, but not a lot. So it's better if it's also near the waterline. And then we liked our Marco pump for our freshwater system so much that we got its big brother to act as our saltwater washdown and also to flush the head sometimes when we want to flush it with salt water. So all 3 of these pumps have slightly different requirements, and they also have vastly different jobs. So as much as it would be cool to just have one saltwater pump that runs the whole boat, it's just not practical on our system currently. So we've got the through hull already installed on the boat. We've got this raw water strainer that I welded a bracket onto previously, so it's just the perfect height. And now I think I have all the pieces I need to actually build the manifold that's gonna connect all this together. And then I can install it up in the boat. And then hopefully in the next couple of days, might actually be able to pressure test and run some water through this. Obviously not salt water, but we could hook the hose up to it and make sure some of it works. So I'm gonna get building. I have a lot of different fittings that I've been collecting over the last couple of months, and hopefully I have everything that I need.
This is my situation this week. We've been traveling the last couple of days, so I've been sick. And my nose is runny, but I need both hands to film, so I shoved some toilet paper up my nostrils so that I can be useful.
This little white mustache.
Well, I have, right. Maybe we take this out. While I have your attention, let's talk about the paid partner of this week's video, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online platform that helps make starting therapy so much easier, and it's all online, so you do not have to worry about getting your therapist sick. To get started, you take a quick quiz so that you can get matched with one of the many therapists that BetterHelp has on their platform. And then from there, within just a few days, you can start communicating with your therapist whichever way you're comfortable with. It could be via phone or video or even text. And if you do not like who you're matched with, it is so easy to switch at no additional cost until you find somebody that you truly vibe with. I actually looked it up earlier, and it's crazy that over 6 million people has gotten help through BetterHelp over the years, and I am one of them. So if you've been thinking about starting therapy and you want to give BetterHelp a try, you can check out betterhelp.com/sailinguma to get 10% off your first month. On that note, one more thing I wanted to tell you is we just put out these fancy new sweatshirts on our website, and it has everything on it. It has the upside down. It has the Sailing Uma logo here. It has the Don't Buy a Couch here, and it also has our Arctic design on the back. So if you want to snag one of these, make sure to check out our website. I'll also link all that down below or also in one of the cards here. Whew. So on that note, I need to sneeze, so I'm going to cut it there and let's get back to the episode.
We'll get into the rest of our HVAC system soon, but part of it is this big 230 volt raw water cooling pump that we need to install in the cockpit first before the rest of the system. But I wanted to take a second and nerd out a little bit about this pump because I think it's pretty sweet. For one, they send it with these like quick connect couplings, so you can disconnect it from all the hoses easily, and then disconnect the top bolts, and we take it off. This is all plastic. It's got ceramic bearings inside of it. It's a centrifugal pump, so this part spins, and it's plastic on ceramic bearings. And then the rest of it, all the magnets and stuff are completely sealed away from salt water. And there's a magnetic core in here that spins. So the motor's like from here down, and that's sealed. And that spins this set of magnets that through like induction spins this part, which goes in. And so like there's no mechanical connections, there's no gears, there's no metal parts, there's nothing that can corrode, and there's nothing really that can get fouled in there either. Like it's gonna go through the raw water strainer, but basically if it can suck it in through this inch hose, it'll spit it out the other side. So I'm kind of just nerding out a little bit about how cool that pump is. And each of these bolts are evenly spaced, so you can rotate the output to wherever you need, which is awesome. So that's me nerding out about this pump, and we'll get to the rest of the HVAC system when we install it after. Stupidest, plastikiest, shittiest little wrench I've ever seen. Last night I finished putting all these pieces together and sealing them all up, and we have done a dry fit of this in the boat, so I'm 95% sure it's all going to fit. But before I put it in there, I am going to pressure test it out here with the hose to make sure that like all of this main manifold is sealed properly and there's no leaks, because it's going to be much easier to find a leak out here and disassemble and fix it than it is going to be once it's installed. So we've got like everything hooked up with some janky valves on the end of anything that's going to be hooked up, just so we can control the flow out of each one. And then on the main one, I actually put hose connections. So we're going to fill it up in the correct order, because there's a couple of one-way valves in here that won't allow it to be filled backwards. And yeah, I guess we're going to see if this thing leaks anywhere. I hope it doesn't. Okay, can shut that one off. And now I can turn this one on. Okay, and then I can turn this one on. Okay, we're all full. So theoretically,
nothing should explode.
nothing should explode.
Oh,
Ooh, that's gonna explode.
this is about to explode.
I mean, to be fair, this is never gonna have that kind of pressure on it. So maybe it's not rated for like 60 PSI of pressure. It's gonna technically have zero pressure on it, but I don't really like that it pushed that gasket out. It's weird. How am I gonna fix that? That's what was leaking. All right, so let's talk about it. This giant stainless steel raw water strainer that we got, which was quite expensive, and we put a decent amount of time welding these brackets on the back, failed in a relatively interesting way that I wasn't quite expecting. Because the reality is what we had before was one of these smaller plastic. This one's made by Vetus. There's a bunch of these out there, and they're really common. They're definitely not designed to go below the waterline. Yeah, because they're all plastic. But previously on our boat, we had one of these installed for our raw water filter for the water maker or the saltwater pump that flushed our head, and we had the deck wash, and it was installed right at the water line. So theoretically, it was fine. But these are definitely supposed to be installed above the water line. But they have a feature which I actually like even more than this big stainless one. And that's this big, thick rubber gasket that goes around the edge is actually captive inside of a groove inside of the lid. And so when you do tighten it down and tighten it, you can actually see on the top that you have a good seal because you can see the gasket all the way around. And then if there is pressure in here, that O-ring expands into itself. It expands into like a completely enclosed area. So we did have this leak once or twice, but it was usually because there was some debris along that O-ring, or we just didn't have it like fully secured down. However, the two things that I don't really like about this and why we didn't want to put this back in our new design is that it is all plastic. I'm not sure what material this lid is made out of. It says, it doesn't actually say. Maybe polycarbonate. But it's just plastic, and it only has these two little screw holes on the back to mount it, and it's a little bit weird and leveraged off the back, and so unless it's installed in a very safe place, it's very easy to, like, if you accidentally step on this, you'll probably break this plastic on the back. There's only enough space on this bottom to put one hose clamp, and so it's really not meant to be underwater. I know a lot of people probably mount this below the water line, and it's probably fine, but it just never really gave us that warm, fuzzy feeling inside, especially because there's no real security for this lid aside from just friction. So it's difficult to tell if it's secured properly when you're cleaning it. So this is what we definitely didn't want to put below the water line. And so we did a bunch of research, and we found this big stainless version, which is also made by Vetus. And it's big enough to allow enough water to flow through it so that we could run the HVAC, the water maker, saltwater washdown pump. We could run just about anything we want off of it. It's got this big 1.5-inch hole on the side, so we could put an 1.5-inch manifold. And so, although it's made out of stainless steel, which we weren't really thrilled about because using stainless in a raw water system filled with salt water 24/7 can definitely develop crevice corrosion. It definitely wouldn't last as long as, say, a bronze filter, but we couldn't find a bronze filter we really liked at the time that we were researching this one. And online, it said that it was rated for below the water line because it has these big twisty knobs on the top that add a bunch of compression to this really soft neoprene gasket. It looked like it had all of the requirements that we were looking for, except it was made out of stainless steel, which we didn't love, but you know, it would last 10 years instead of 50 or something like that. And so we were willing to gamble on it, but it definitely had a more secure lid, or so we thought. When we pressure tested this, it failed in a way that we weren't really expecting. However, now that we see it, it's kind of obvious. And that is that this neoprene gasket that runs in between the stainless and this big thick acrylic top plate isn't captive at all. There's nothing holding this in except for the perforations where these bolts go down through it. And so we filled it up with water, and then we applied just a little bit more pressure. We didn't have a gauge on it, but it wasn't full hose pressure. It wasn't 60 PSI. It was maybe 20 or 30 PSI. And this gasket expanded out the sides because there's no ring holding it in, and it started leaking immediately. And because of that, we sort of lost our trust in this filter, and we went back to the drawing board again. Now, in that research, we also found the actual install manual for this, and it says that it should be mounted above the waterline, and then the website says it's able to be mounted below the waterline. And so with that flip-flopping back and forth and not really having a clear answer, we really wanted to find something better that made us have a lot more confidence in the system, because it is mounted below the waterline. It can take pressure when you're going up and down waves, or if something pulls a vacuum or whatever. We want it to be a very robust system, and we never want to think about it leaking ever. So we did a bunch more research, and we actually found this guy. This is a solid bronze raw water filter. And there's two companies that make these. They are clones of each other. One I think is from Masterini, and this one's from Guidi. But the things we like about them, there's a couple of other manufacturers of bronze raw water strainers, but they seem to, at least from our perspective, have quite a few failure points and like a lot of pieces all sort of bolted together. The thing we really like about this one and the clone is that they are a solid cast bronze housing with an inlet for the raw water and an outlet out to your boat, and then a clear top cover. You can get them in a solid cover as well, but we opted for the clear cover so that we can see inside and see if it's clogged. And it has all the things we like. It's got this big, solid cast bronze retaining ring and actual stainless steel hardware that bolts it down. Underneath is an acrylic cover. It's a little bit thinner, but it's smaller, so that's fine. And also, I think it's Lexan, so it's very like shatter proof. And this is an easily replaceable part if it ever gets scratched. And then inside of that is an O-ring, and that O-ring sits down inside of an actual channel, so that when all of this is assembled on top of it and you apply pressure, it just expands into its channel so it can't blow out the O-ring. And then inside of that is just like a stainless steel strainer basket. This is actually 316L, which means it's even better than the Vetus one. It's even more corrosion resistant, and it's the only kind of stainless steel part in it. The rest is all bronze. It's nickel plated bronze, which I have no experience with, but it just looks shinier for longer, I guess. But the rest of it's completely solidly cast bronze. So because it has a captive O-ring inside a channel and a clear cover and a retention ring that bolts the whole thing down, this thing is sparking all of the confidence that we could possibly ever want in a raw water filter that lives below the waterline. So the only difference is this one has the inlet and the outlet horizontally. So water flows in and dumps down in the basket, and then water gets sucked out from the bottom through this side, which is a little bit different than this one where water comes in the bottom and then gets pushed out the side. So it means we're going to have to redesign our system quite a bit, but this one they happen to have at the local marine store, and if we ordered the one where it came out of the bottom, it would require a lot of waiting, and this project has taken long enough already, so we are going to go with what we've got and figure out the best way to install it. So yeah, these are the three. We've got the original that we had on the boat before, not confidence inspiring, all plastic, but it does the job if you mount these above the waterline. And we've got the stainless one, which we thought was going to be okay, but with the gasket blowing out under such small amount of pressure, it's not very confidence inspiring. And then the solid bronze one, which is making us already feel pretty warm and fuzzy inside. But because we're replacing the filter with a bronze housing and these elbows with a bronze housing, and there's a couple of other fittings that we need that only come in bronze, we haven't been able to find the reinforced plastic versions. So it kind of doesn't really make sense to have a mix of bronze and plastic in the manifold coming out of this. So we are gonna collect and build the entire manifold with bronze parts as well. Hopefully we can find what we need locally, because otherwise ordering them is going to take a while. Yeah, so we're going to have to reconfigure the manifold again, and hopefully it's going to be much more durable and last much longer and pass our pressure test this time, so we can finally wrap up this project, because it has taken way too long. So we have some more parts to fiddle around with and reconfigure and redevelop and redesign, but this is going to be a good foundation to start from. So we're getting ready to pressure test it one more time. Hopefully it doesn't blow up and spray water all over the place like the last one did. And if that goes well, we can do a dry fit, hopefully get to installing it today. But the last bracket is still printing, so we'll see. I didn't bother putting the pumps and stuff on yet because we don't really need to. We can do those individually later. For now, I just want to make sure all of these joints are good to go. All right, hose on. Okay, it's full of water. Now let's fill it full of water. Full pressure from the hose, which is over 60 psi. These little caps are probably going to leak because they're plastic and they're shit. So far so good. Much better than before. Much better than before. Yeah, this is why I don't like these plastic fittings though. They just don't have enough thread engagement. I wrapped the piss out of this thing with Teflon tape and tighten it up, and it's still leaking. I mean, we're just using it to cap off for this pressure test, but well, this one's not leaking, surprisingly. Cool. I'm happy with that. Much happier with that. Nothing blew up. Jesus Christ, it's so slippery. So last night we tried to do a test fit of the new bronze seawater strainer and how we thought it was gonna fit, but because the bronze fittings are a little bit longer, it wasn't ideal. I want to switch this around and have this be the high point and then have it flow, which means that's gonna have air in it. It's gonna be almost impossible to get the hose out and underneath it here. I don't like how far away that strainer is from maintenance, and I don't like that it's sitting on our sink drain through hull, and I don't like that it complicates the original 1.5 inch through hull that it's supposed to be fed off of. The problem with changing our plans halfway through, being forced to change our plans halfway through, is that everything was built around a certain setup, and now that we're changing that setup, nothing fits. So we're gonna have to get creative, even more creative. Like, I really like this bronze. I like the fittings, I like the structure, I like the security of it all, but I just don't like the layout. So we're trying to brainstorm, go back to the drawing board again. Spent a good hour in there just staring at the wall and trying to like reconfigure and try to come up with a better plan so that the strainer is in an accessible place, the pumps are in an accessible place, water flows uphill the whole way, so air bubbles can get out, and it's still compact because we don't have a lot of space to work. So I think I come up with a better plan. We sort of dry assembled it last night on the bench, so today we can test fit it in the cockpit locker, and hopefully it fits, and hopefully there's space for all the pumps, because then we can actually put together the final solution. Sort of. Okay, but then that way. We did a bunch of dry fitting and too many nights scratching our heads in the cockpit locker, but I think I can assemble it one last time for the final time, hopefully, and then install it in the cockpit locker. So, time to wrench on some stuff. put that back real quick.
Oh, that would have been
Easy there, buddy. Easy. Yeah, I really like it. And we're not going to need any complicated fittings because I can order these reinforced plastic ones and then they can go into the ends. One of these is going to be for the saltwater washdown pump. One of these is going to be for HVAC. And I can get another one for the water maker. So we don't need any more complicated bronze fittings, which were impossible to find. This is good. This is nice. This works. I'm going to clean up the threads a little bit and then cap these off. We'll do another pressure test. And if that goes smoothly and nothing leaks, then we can install it in the boat.
Are you tightening it or?
No, I'm loosening. I gotta bleed the air out of it. There
it is.
that air. Add a little bit of pressure. And now wait for leaks. Oh, this is wet because we sprayed it. Okay, fresh start. Now we look for leaks. I see no leaks, and this is like 60 psi as opposed to like 2 psi, which is what the ocean will be applying. So that's pretty good. This still has a curve to it. Yeah, there's still pressure in it. Fucker.
Uh-oh. Well, but that's the cap, though. That's fine, right?
That's fine. That cap's going to be removed once we install the water maker. I'm not a huge fan of these. They're still reinforced plastic, so like the plastic's not going to break, but there's only like a centimeter of thread engagement, which I'm not thrilled with. But if and when we can find a bronze replacement for those, or a plastic one with a longer thread, then they're easy to replace. But for now, they're what we have, and it will work. And they're not; these two aren't leaking, which is good. And this is a lot of pressure. This one has a little leak, but I used Teflon tape on that. And this one, these two, since they're like permanent, I put the thread on them, and they're surviving much better. But this one with the Teflon tape has a drip. That's why I like that thread better. It just does a better job. But nothing else seems to be leaking, so I'm very happy with that. Yeah, this is dry. Yeah, this is dry. This is wet. There's only one drip, so even that one will probably seal itself up. Cool. All right. I think we can go and drain the water out of this and then install it. Finally. It's been like 3 months in the making. No, more. We bought that Vetus water filter like a year ago.
But we were just sitting on it. We didn't do
Yeah,
anything.
because we thought we were going to be plumbing, and then we did other stuff, and then we did other stuff, and then we did other stuff. But it's been a very long time since our original plan for how this was going to work, and all the way to this. It's been longer than I ever could have imagined it taking, but I think we have a final solution. So let's go install it. Muscle this thing in. It's such a chunk of metal.
It really is.
All right. Yeah. Got it.
Is it done?
I can put a piece of hose on here, and then it'll be done. That is as good as that's going to get for tonight. I'm really happy with how that turned out, actually. It's got really good organization. It's got uphill flow the whole way. It's got easy access to the strainer. We can easily see it to see if it's clogged. The HVAC pump is still well below the water line, and they're still spaced out of the other pumps. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. It might look a little bit like it's taking up a lot of space right now because it's built out into the cockpit quite a bit. But where this blue tape is right about where the water line is. It's also where the, I guess, floor, the cabin sole of this cockpit locker is going to be installed. So all of these pumps are going to be below it and out of the way. And then the rest of the pumps and filters are going to be mounted on that bulkhead. The water maker pump, saltwater washdown pump, the water maker filters, they're all going to be on there. I'm glad that we have that solid foundation built now so that we can build everything on top of it. So yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen next week, but we'll see you there. Cheers.
Bye-bye.